Chapter 4 90 Seconds. Perkel's vessel arrived much sooner than expected. Now, with very little time left, Silta needed to jump back in for a third consecutive half-realm journey, a feat no one had ever accomplished. Just a single journey would normally require up to 18 hours of rest before even considering going back in. Silta had just taken 2 trips back to back. Quickly, he injected himself with a stimulant and prepared to re-enter when suddenly he heard the hail from the flagship.
Prepare to be boarded.
But, ignoring the hail, he immediately closed his eyes, hoping to re-enter the portal before they could commandeer his vessel. At that moment, there was an explosion. His hatch was blown. Instantly, a massive push of air and a noise like a windstorm rushed through his control room as loose objects were flying past him. It started to become very difficult to breathe. Fortunately, he was fastened in his seat, preventing him from being sucked out into space. But this kept him from being able to take hold of his environmental helmet. It was bone-chilling cold now. Total silence replaced the familiar sounds of his control panel and surrounding area. He started to pass out just as the first soldier arrived to quickly encase him in an environmental bubble, saving his life. When he regained consciousness, he was tied into another chair, one on the bridge of a vessel much larger than his. Perkel's host had just entered the room. He looked like any other 400-year-old Githaudan, just a teenager in their world. Vastly obese, with very little muscle mass, only about a meter or so in height, with shortened arms and legs that were of little use. Their heads had evolved to comprise 1/3 of their total body mass, sunken into fleshy mounds that were once considered shoulders. They had 2 sets of eyes, one primary set and a secondary sunken within their temples. But neither set was of much use, since the Morricell had enhanced their visual keenness as well as their other senses for millions of years. They also employed levitational devices to move from one place to another. Implants allowed them to communicate with each other at will.
We have almost completed the transfer of your ship's power to our engines,
said the host as he floated alongside Silta's seat.
Soon we will commence with your assimilation into our collective. Once that is completed, you will share with us your knowledge, and we will set a new course for the barrier field.
Before you do, I must advise you of some important news, my liege. I have traveled back to your homeworld, the place called Earth. I have learned much about the origins of the Morricell. I have also learned of a deity who they believe was responsible for its creation. He goes by the name...
Do not speak that name!
He yelled violently, with a wall of sound that blasted the disdain and displeasure of 1,000 tortured souls.
I will not suffer any more of this insolence. Exploring that sector of space has been banned for billions of years. You have willingly broken our laws. You know the consequence is execution.
Yes, I am aware. But these desperate times call for desperate measures. I believe I have found a way to escape Omega, and it will not require any more energy than you already have. But I need more information from that world to confirm my findings.
You are bluffing and wasting precious time.
No, my liege. This information will be invaluable to the survival of our species. I just need a few more trips into the portal.
A few more trips? In such a short amount of time? It will kill you.
You have your medical specialists to monitor my progress and vital signs. Use whatever methods you need to keep my body from expiring. This is the chance I must take. Please grant me this wish. When and if I survive, I will gladly join your collective and share with you everything I have learned.
Very well. You have 3 hours. That is enough time to take 3 more visits. We will monitor your progress, but then you will comply with our wishes and disclose to us all we need to know.
Of course.
And I do not want to hear about any deity or supreme power. The very mention of any name will forfeit your life.
Silta's next 3 visits to Earth took him further and further back into the planet's history, where he found a few isolated instances of Morricell activity. From ancient Mesopotamia all the way back to the very earliest recorded event, the Morricell would appear, but only at critical, pivotal moments in human development. These 3 trips proved to him not only that the Morricell existed on ancient Earth, but that it was also much more than just an energy source. He still was not sure of its actual origins. It would require going even further back in time for him to learn those secrets. But now, Silta was near death, falling deeper into the half-realm than any other Gothawadan had ever been. Fortunately for the Perkel, Silta was able to communicate the proper coordinates for them to resume their course away from Omega. They launched immediately with their new cache of information and reserved energy. Once again, they were moving away from destruction and into outer darkness. The barrier field appeared on their long-range sensors, but the gravity behind them was increasing, even though they had calculated every molecule of mass on their ship. They still believed they had just enough power to reach the barrier, but it would require the removal of all unnecessary items from the ship, including any personnel deemed as non-essential. Over the next few minutes, 41 crew members were forced into airlocks and released mercilessly into space. Whether or not to jettison Silta was also debated. However, for the moment, they decided to hold on to him, as his value was still unclear. For even in his weakened state, he could still communicate to some degree, and their connection to him continued to serve them as they navigated the subtle nuances of faster-than-light escape velocities. Silta, now a bridge to a realm of the unknown, also continued to relay information about that ancient world. This was not necessarily good news for the Perkel, as they steadily grew uncomfortable in the light of these new revelations. For with every new account uncovered by Silta, they had to face the truth about their origins, facts they had conveniently divorced from truth for as far back as any of them could remember. There was room for only one unknown in the Gothawadan paradigm: Morricell. Every other need or want could be explained, provided, and permitted by the sovereign leadership and hegemony of the Perkel. Silta, however, was presently in a position held by no other Gothawadan, for even though it was forbidden, he was still allowed to explore without consequence because of his necessary contribution to their survival. I have also discovered a civilization preceding Earth's recorded history. This requires me to go back millions of years earlier on that planet. There is much yet to be discovered.
We do not approve of any more time you wish to spend in that place. Your very existence now hangs in the balance. Either you devote all your attention and efforts to our flight plan, or you will be terminated.
Then go ahead and terminate me.
You care that little about your own life?
My life is no longer important. What matters is knowing the truth.
Truth. That was an ancient term, a word used in the development of primitive worlds. Such social constructs are counterproductive to our way of life. You had no need for truth up to now.
You are in denial, Perkel. You still believe the Morricell is here to serve you, just like all of us. But it does not serve anyone. It is a guide, not a servant.
Remove him! I will not tolerate any more of this!
Cried that cacophonous den of captive beings. The lone traveler was thrown into an airlock and heard the timer counting down the seconds before the exterior door would open. He reached down and noticed the environmental device was still on his body, the same one that saved his life earlier. He touched the belt, and immediately it encased him in a bubble of air.
Your time is limited. I hope you find what you are looking for.
Hope. There is a word I would have never expected coming from you.
Release him!
The ruthless cry rang out, and so, without reducing to sublight speed, Silta was shot into the cold darkness of space. Miraculously, his bubble was not ripped to shreds as he settled into slower-than-light velocity. The flagship was gone. Silta was now truly alone, floating in a limited environment that would only sustain him for another 90 seconds. Instantly, he shivered as his ambient temperature plummeted. Why would Perkel allow me to keep this belt? He asked himself as he turned to look at that queer cluster of light. Far into that gathering field, he saw the black hole darkness of the event horizon. With each passing moment, it grew larger and larger. Which one would come first? Death by freezing, death by suffocation, or death by black hole? It would have been much quicker if Perkel would have just thrown him out unprotected. But Perkel never does anything without a reason. Perhaps he just wanted Silta to suffer the fear of knowing the end was coming, a sort of penalty for his crime. Then, suddenly, a name entered Silta's mind. Gloria had mentioned this name to him. The name was Michael. The seconds were ticking away, nowhere to go and no one to save him. Only one option remained for the lonely traveler: to take yet another journey into the half-realm. Coming soon in Chapter 5, Gloria and her son Michael are kidnapped while on their way to the White House. Michael is inadvertently exposed to the half-realm and taken to a civilization on Earth long forgotten.